All right, let's try this again. Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Wagner. So you might be tuning in because a few days ago I posted that I was going naked, raw, and real on Facebook Live. And so you might be tuning in just to see, what the heck is this crazy girl up to? What is she doing? What is this about? All right, so before I get to, what's below the fold, let's talk about what it means to be naked. Being naked, it's just me, it's just you. There's no marketing. I'm not selling anything. I'm not marketing anything. This is just me. And, regardless of what's from here down, this is just me sharing a piece of myself, sharing something raw and real and kind of naked. I think on Facebook we tend to share the photoshopped, the perfect, everything is wonderful about our life, and that's the picture that a lot of us have been sharing on Facebook. And I would just want to be really real. There's no marketing here today. There's no selling. Usually when I do a Facebook Live, I have bullet points of all the things that I want to make sure that I get in the messaging, and that's not what I'm here to do today. I'm here to share something that I've really never shared. So some of you know me as Ms. Woman Arizona 2016, Miss Congeniality. You might know me from some of the local TV shows that I've been a guest on, and maybe you know me from being the marketing director for a local conservative news talk radio station. I've been on Celebrity Fight Night, Red Carpet, and I've interviewed celebrities. But there's a piece of me that I've only shared with a select group of people. And when you share what I'm going to share with you today with a room full of people where you can see their eyes and you can see how they're going to respond to you, and you can see how they're going to react, it's safe. It's really safe. But this is scary. This is kind of scary. Just being really open with what I'm going to be open with you about, and what I'm going to be naked and raw and real. And I feel a responsibility to do this. Part of it is healing for me. And part of what I'm going to share is also because I know there's so many people that are struggling. And recently I've had so many people reach out to me that are struggling. And I feel like I have a responsibility to share what I'm going to share with you. It's my story. It's my real, raw, naked story. Last month, I celebrated 10 years of sobriety from crystal meth. From crystal meth to the crown and beyond. There's a title. I was a crystal meth addict. Do I look like the poster child for crystal meth? I wanted to share about this, and I wanted to share some of the things that I learned, and how I guess I have a lot of healing left to do, even 10 years later. I wanted to share because I know that there's so many people that recently have reached out to me that have a family member that's struggling, or they themselves are struggling. One of my Facebook friends shared an article of a young, beautiful woman who died from drug addiction. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to hear of the families that are struggling, of the individuals that are struggling, and because I learned so much through recovery, I feel like I have a responsibility to share this. Recently someone reached out to me and they had just relapsed, and they're in the thick of going into recovery, and I just wanted to open up my brain and open up their brain and just do this data dump and pour all the information that I learned into their brain. And that was when I realized, you know what, Christina, it's time that you do a Facebook Live. It's time that you share this with everyone. It's time that you share this in a space where maybe you don't feel super safe, and you just allow yourself to be totally naked and transparent and real, and no filters, no scripts, no marketing, just the messaging. Okay, so my story, just in a nutshell, I was a crystal meth addict. It got as bad as it could possibly get. My home was raided by the police, not once, but twice. I tend to be a little bit stubborn. It takes a little bit for me to get it. I went from having it all to losing it all. I lost my kids. I had that final moment where I actually thought I was going to go away to prison, and I prayed. I just prayed. I prayed hard. And I asked God to, even though I didn't deserve his help, but I asked him to help me put the pieces of my life back together, and I would be a better mom than I ever was, and I would give back to my community. And so that's what I did. And when I was sitting in this interrogation room expecting to be taken away and go to prison, after that prayer, these two detectives came back and they took me home, which, I mean, it was shocking the way that their demeanor and everything changed. It was amazing. I have put the pieces of my life well back together. Okay, but I want to get into some of the things that I learned and what helped me to be successful. Because if you have a family member that is struggling with drug addiction, I hope that this sheds a little bit of, I don't know, maybe light at the end of the tunnel. I guess that's what my hope is. My hope is that maybe there's a takeaway for you and maybe for them. So how did I go from, how did I get to the point of being recovered from crystal meth, 10 years sobriety? How did I get there? Well, I found these great, my family, my amazing supportive family, my mom and my aunt. They were my rock. Without the two of them, I don't know that I would have gotten sober. Sorry. Okay, so the lessons, the things I learned. My mom found these classes. They were peer support classes, and I went to them. I was in a class, a counseling session, or a meeting every single day of the week, and I didn't want to go. Quite honestly, all I wanted to sleep. When I got sober, when I decided to get sober, all I wanted to do was sleep. My mom actually said, "You need to take a shower. You stink. You need to shower." I was not easy to take in those beginning days. So if you're a family member of someone with addiction, here's the thing about addiction. It's a selfish time, and recovery is a selfish time. All right, so some of the things that I learned. Peer support class, that was amazing. I learned so much about addiction. I learned so much about what was going on in my brain and what was going on, the gaps that I had created with the neurotransmitters and how broken my brain was. And that was through Magellan. I don't know if they still do those or not, but I would encourage you to do a search for peer support classes. I had a family doctor who I really trust and respect that shared something with me And it was a concept that really made a lot of sense. So I'm going to share that with you. So my family doctor, I actually confided in him. This was before I got sober. I confided in him what was going on, and he shared with me his theory on addiction. And sometime later, I will say this really helped me. So here's the theory. His theory is that, and he's a faith-based doctor, and his theory was that addiction is actually a tool of the devil. So just think about that for a second. Think about the lives that can be destroyed with one target. So if you look at, there's a war being waged between God and the devil, good, evil, whatever your thought, belief pattern is, if you'll just be open for 1 second and think about this. Like, what if there's this war being waged between good and evil, God and the devil, and a tool is addiction? The target, the one individual, the addict, has the ability to almost destroy, literally destroy so many lives around them. And so that was something that was shared with me, and later, once I went into recovery, I think I really latched onto it. And maybe I latched onto it because I needed to. Maybe I needed to believe that there was some other hand in me making those horrible decisions, because addiction took everything that was good about me and destroyed it for a time. I went from being the best mother to losing my kids. Like, that was addiction. That's how powerful addiction can be. That's how powerful drug addiction was for me. I went to meetings, and I gotta say, like NA, CA, CNA, like all of those meetings, I went to every meeting that I could go to. And what I tried to do when I went to every meeting was I tried to find one person that story I identified with and that I could relate to. It's really easy to go into one of those meetings and find how you're different than everyone. It's hard to go into one of those meetings and find how you connect and how you can relate. And if you can do that, then you can learn so much. Something else that I did. I gave a name to my addict. So, and this again, I guess I really couldn't handle that Christina did all of those things. So I gave a name to my addict. I had completely forgotten about this, but while going through boxes this weekend, I found something about this that really shocked me. But my addict's name was Annabelle. I don't know why I picked Annabelle, but I gave myself that name of Annabelle for all of the things that I did in addiction. If you're wondering if I'm naked below here, I will get to that at the end, I promise you. And I will read all of your comments. I'm not reading your comments right now, but I will read all of them and I will respond to all of them. Okay, so some of the, just to kind of recap, some of the things that I learned and that I think might be helpful for the person that's struggling in addiction is go to meetings every day. I found faith in my recovery, but I still struggled with it because why? Why did I still struggle with it? I know why I still struggled with it even through my recovery. Because I felt like a shit. I did. I felt unworthy. I felt like I had prayed and my prayers had been answered and I didn't really feel like I deserved it. Through my whole addiction, I think that one of the things that helped me was my family was so supportive and they loved me through it. They loved me unconditionally. At one point, I remember my mom saying to me when I had stopped by the house to visit with my kids, who she had, and I remember her saying, "I love you." And I just stopped dead in my tracks and I said, "Why? Why do you love me?" And she said, "Because somewhere in there, my Chris is still in there." And that stuck with me. So if you've got a family member that's an addict, I'm not saying to enable them, but just love them. Love them through the crazy. Because it gets crazy. I think that was one of the things that helped me the most, was when I got sober, when I decided, not when I got sober, but when I decided to get sober, my family loved me through it. And that was everything. I also learned something else, because one of the things in addiction is, in recovery, is there's a lot of guilt. I felt a lot of guilt. I felt a lot of guilt for the decisions that I made. And someone shared with me that if you just give yourself 5 minutes, so just allow yourself 5 minutes to beat yourself up. That's all you've got. You can have 5 minutes. That's 5 minutes a day. That's not 5 minutes with every person you encounter. That's you. You can give yourself 5 minutes. So you set the clock and say, okay, for this 5 minutes, I'm gonna, if I'm gonna beat myself up, I have that, but then I can't beat myself anymore for the rest of the day, and that's it. And so that was something that I thought was really helpful. And I also added more good. And I gotta say, like, adding more good, the more good that I added, the less that I wanted to go back to any of that. So I just kept adding good and good and good and good. And it really helped me. The more good that I added, it was like, there was no way I was going back to that life. Because all the good stuff started to fill me up in places. And obviously there were places within me that were empty and broken. And that was why I made that choice. That was why I didn't have a set of tools to deal with the stuff in life that was going on. And I chose addiction to deal with the stuff in life that was going on. Can you relate? Another thing, and this is called a bookend. So again, if you have a family member that's struggling with addiction, this might be something that would help them. It's called a bookend. All right, so what am I talking about? So early in recovery, there were times that, if I were running errands, I might be driving in an area, just driving in an area that was a trigger, an area that maybe was a place where I would get drugs from. And so I would use a bookend. I would call someone and say, I'm in a place that reminds me of that bad period in time in my life, and I just want you to know where I'm at, and I'm going to check in with you after. And so that held me accountable. That bookend is something that I've continued to use in other areas of my life. And so even if you're not struggling with addiction, maybe this is something that might help you. Okay, I'm going to take a minute. Hello, Teresa Wright. Hi, everyone. All right, so I'm just going to take a minute to see if there's any. Christy Miller, I'm so proud of you, and I know your experiences will help another struggling. I love you, Christy. Nick Hassel, Dark Passenger, I have no idea what that means. I have to run to an appointment, but I will continue your power story when I get back. What a blessing you're sharing it. Oh, thank you. Oh, Luanna, I love you. Thank you. Emotionally, addiction. Dang it, this is hard. It's hard reading your messages. Okay, breathe. Okay, Sherry and Shara. Emotionally, addiction is the desperation for validation and attention. Congratulations, Christina. Addicts control every situation, and it doesn't work. Here's the best for you. Something that I learned on the other side of addiction. Hey, one of the things I learned on the other side of addiction was how powerful I am. I've done amazing things over the last 10 years. I feel like I've become a better version of me than I ever was prior to addiction. And I'm not saying that, I don't know, I guess once I went through addiction, it was like, if I could do that, I could do anything. And I remember a statistic that was shared with me when I first went into one of those recovery rooms, and someone said 2 out of 10 recover from crystal meth. And I looked around the room and I asked, I know I'm one of them, so who's the other one? Okay, Maria, God help me overcome all my addictions except chocolate. Such a beautiful thing to live soberly. So happy to hear you have recovered. Shar, it's buffering on my end, so I'm gonna have to watch after it's posted. I wanted to hear you live. Proud of you. Love and hugs. I have tuned in. Okay, I just want to see if there's any other questions before I love all the loves. Being your authentic self is amazing, and I love you. I love you, Christy Lynn Miller. Okay, sorry, I just want to make sure that there's no questions so that I can answer those live. And I guess there's no questions, just beautiful comments. So thank you. So this was me being naked, raw, and real with you. And if you saw that image that I posted of me in my bikini with it blacked out and you were wondering, what is she doing? And is she naked? And maybe during this whole thing, you've been wondering what's below there. I work with a great marketing company, the Social Media Masters. And when I told Gia that it was time for me to do this and that I wanted to do this, she said, about time. Finally, I'm glad you're doing this. And she helped me with this approach and the idea of going naked, raw, and real. And she wanted me to be completely naked, but I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. So thanks, Sky, for letting me borrow your romper. And anyway, so this was me being open, authentic, raw, real, naked with who I am with you. If you're someone that's struggling with addiction, I'm here. I'm a private message away. It's been a long time since I've, like, some of the stuff that I got in touch with and remembered, it feels like it's a different person, because I'm so far removed from that. And this topic isn't something that I talk about all the time. It's more something that I've kept in my back pocket. When I encounter someone that's struggling with addiction, you know, I'll share with them my story. When I encounter a family member that's got someone that's struggling with addiction, I'll share with them my story. But I felt it was time for me to put this story out there and maybe help more people than I'm able to touch in my day-to-day life. So if you're a family member, if you have a family member that's struggling, if you're struggling, I'm here for you. I know it's hard. It's especially hard on the family. Like, I know I put my family through hell, and I managed to completely fix those relationships, and that means everything to me. So thank you for joining me on my naked, raw, and real. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.